is WZRD Chicago 88.3 FM. And we have with us at WZRD via Zoom, Antonio Adolfo. Antonio, we cannot see you, but we do see your name. Welcome to Wizard.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure being talking to
Now we
you.
see you. Awesome.
Yes. It's great. Great to talk with your audience, and it's my
Yes,
pleasure.
yes, we were just playing a couple of tracks from your new album, Lava Cole Porter. First, we played the track Night and Day, and then we played a bit of So in Love, and then we got to playing Pretty World. You have won a lot of awards for your music, but let us start in the beginning about how you started playing professionally. Was it at 17?
Yes, I became a professional at the age of 17. I was invited by two great Brazilian composers, Vinícius de Moraes and Carlos Lira, to play at the play. They had a play, and I became professional at that moment, 1964, beginning of 1964. Yes. So uh, it's a long story.
Yes, let's hear it. What
Yes,
happened?
and then there was a place in Rio de Janeiro named the Bottles Alley. People used to go there and play jazz and bossa nova, all those Brazilian styles. And I started being professionally as a side musician. So I had also a trio named 3D, and I was invited by this great singer Leni Andrade and Raul de Souza, the trombone player, to join them at the club. There was a jazz club. I was 17. I could work at in nightclubs at that moment, and so I had to have authorization from the judge of infant judges, and I started to play with them with under authorization because I was so young. But there was a great moment in the Brazilian music, and I learned a lot from them. There was a moment that bossa nova with the great Jobim, Antonio Carlos Jobim, I mean, and all other composers, and it started João Gilberto. All these people started a little bit before me, but they used to go to this place and join the other musicians and perform and play. Anyway, it was a great moment. That was in Copacabana, Rio de Janeiro, at that moment, 1964. Even earlier, there were bossa nova started early in '58, but I can say that I'm from the second generation of bossa nova.
How did you start playing music? You were very young, so what age did you start playing and or learning?
I started learning the violin because my mother was a violinist from the symphony orchestra in Rio de
Uh,
Janeiro.
ah,
Yes, and then I started learning the violin, but I didn't like very much to play violin. I prefer to play piano, and then I started to play by ear. My sister was studying classical music, and when she was not sitting on the piano, I had the chance to go there and practice it by myself and learn some music by ear, um, try to learn the melodies and then the harmonies. I was 14 years old at that moment, and but violin something from the past. Before then actually in the 2000 I started to play again violin, but then I said it requires much study, much practice. So let me keep playing the piano. What's my main instrument, which is my main instrument.
when you started playing by and learning by ear, was it that you were so young and then it was easier for you, or do you think you were a prodigy?
Then I had to study classical music because at that moment there was not like a school for popular music or for jazz in Brazil.
Oh,
I had to go through classical study. That was good also because I could practice not only the scales and arpeggios and all that, but also I had to go through the repertoire from classical composers. As my mother, she was a classical violinist also, and my sister was also a classical pianist. But that was a great experience also. Of course, I liked to play jazz, I liked to play bossa nova, but I think the classical training gave me that support that is necessary for the musician, for professional musician. I mean,
You learned by ear first, and then you got your footing, the foundation, by with the classical training, right?
yes, right, exactly this.
But then you fell in love with bossa nova and jazz.
Yes, that was my passion.
Hmm.
Passions, I think, and it's something that's very important for you to grow as a musician. With no passion, no musician. That's something that goes together.
Do you do any? Did you do any dancing at that time, or did you just like the rhythm? Did you uh, dance to the music?
You mean the rhythm is very important
Uh-huh.
to
Yes,
something very important for your training.
exactly.
And yeah, if you have to get rhythm, you have to have rhythm in your
Hmm.
inside because that helps a lot. That's something that makes people from classical oriented musicians they have some difficulty on playing jazz or any other style of popular music if they don't have rhythm. It's rhythm is something that I can tell you that I learned from the college samba that we had in Brazil at that moment. They used to play samba in the schools, and there was a very important moment, I think, because it helped me. It has helped me to grow with the knowledge of written and of the different styles of music in Brazil.
Hmm. Did you play many concerts when you were learning? What about in high school? When did you start your classical training? When you went to in your college years, or did you even start in high school?
I was at the high school at that moment. In the high
Oh,
school at that moment, I told you I was in the 14 or 15. That's time I was in the high school.
oh,
And after the high school, I went to study law. Can you believe it? Believe
yes,
it? I
yes.
studied law for 2 years,
Hmm.
but I was very much into music, into professional musician thing. I wanted to perform with singers. I had a long experience playing with vocalists and accompanying them. And I also, with my trio, I could record. My first album I did record, I was 18 years old. I had a trio, as I told them, 3D, like third dimension. And I
Hmm.
recorded for the label RCA at that moment. There was a moment that in Brazilian music we had lots of trios also, lots of instrumental groups, and I chose my trio. Trio was easy to travel and to work. There's just only three musicians, and then you can play not only accompanying singers or other instrumentalists, but also performing only with the trio. That was a good chance for showing the music at that moment.
When you were in high school and you started the classical training, uh, you uh, you continued on with that training into college. How did you get into recording and having an album so fast at 18?
Yeah, that was a little bit difficult, but with passion, everything is okay. I remember that I started to play in the nightclubs and also in some other clubs that when playing with singers, that made me feel very well, very comfortable, and the jam sessions as well. So there was no problem to be studied at the high school or the college or so and being a musician. But I have to tell you that three years after, I kept only as a I stay only as being a musician only. I abandoned the law school that I was doing at the moment, and then I went straight to music. That was my destiny.
Were there other musicians as young as you were well, you were in high school and training. Were there other musicians as young as you? Was that a common occurrence to have such young students?
Yes, I believe that many of musicians that became professional through bossa nova,
Hmm.
these people, many of them had the same problem. I don't know if it's a problem, but they have the same situation when they were at the college, or high school, or the university, and were musicians at the same time, and they had to deal with both. No? That's the way it was.
Mm. And was it hard for you to network with the musicians? What was it that drew you to them? Did they see that your talent, or did you ask them to mentor you?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know. I think it was that came naturally. That came naturally, very naturally, and there was no issues with that, and no problems with that. And all musicians that were from the same let's see, it's the same background. They understand very well. They understood very well. And also there were musicians that are only musicians, professional musicians that dedicated only to that professional, and that was natural. Everything came naturally. I have to tell you.
What about those other musicians that work with you? Do you know if they also started as young? Or was that what usually happened in Rio de Janeiro at that time, or were you special to be starting so young?
Yeah, I was sort of special because starting to be a musician with the age 17 is not very common.
Uh-huh.
I felt that was something a little bit different at that moment.
Did you get any scholarships with your talent?
Yeah, at the college,
Yes, or whichever school that that you got your training from.
at the school, we have a few guys who could play guitar, drum set, or even the bass.
Mhm.
But I was one of the few that became professional musicians only.
You also learned guitar, right? And when did you learn guitar?
Guitar?
Hmm.
Oh, guitar, I learned by myself.
Really?
Uh, yeah, I started to copy the chords that I did on piano and play on the guitar, those chords. And
Oh,
then I learned how to make the rhythm with the right hand. And yeah, that was not so difficult. But I am not a soloist on the guitar. I can just accompany, and I use guitar sometimes to compose music
mhm. Is
because
it?
when you compose with the guitar, you have to sing, and then when you sing, more simple melodies come. When I start composing with the piano, I maybe I do more sophisticated melodies, but guitar helps a lot for the popular composer or popular music composer.
Is it that the guitar is more uh, you're able to carry it along with you everywhere? You can't take the
Yeah,
piano with you, but you could take the guitar with you so that when the inspiration strikes, you could
that's true. That's true. Guitar is easy to go everywhere with it. There's piano. Nowadays they have a portable pianos that we can plug in the electricity or in the amplifier,
the
and that
keyboard.
works.
Hmm. What
Yeah, but
about, go ahead. No, you finish.
oh, yes, I just finished. Yes.
What about Pretty World? What did you use to compose that?
You believe it? I composed that song on the guitar, singing the melody with my lyricist partner, Tiberio Gaspar. He was on my side, he was writing the lyrics, and I was in the guitar singing. Okay, let's do that. And the original lyrics are in Portuguese. The original name of Pretty World is Samarina, which is a story of a lady that enchanted everybody with her charm, etc. And then when the song became a very successful hit song, Sergio Mendes wanted to record that in the U.S. And then he asked the couple, Alan Bergman and Marilee Bergman, to write the English lyrics.
So was it able, the English lyrics were they able to capture the same spirit as the Portuguese lyrics, or there had to be a change in order to have the same melody?
Yes, so it's a different meaning. The English lyrics is a different meaning. It's about a moment of peace, a moment of joy, like a dreaming moment. People are saying pretty world, like you and me are in this place so natural with trees and the nature, and we are very happy to be here. And the original lyrics is about the lady, as I told, that lived in a small town in the interior of Brazil, and she liked to sing and dance in the streets. And she was a teacher, actually, she was a teacher. And then she enchanted everyone who watched her dancing and singing. She was in dressing white. And it's a little bit different, but both in common. Both lyrics have in common that is a joy moment of joy.
So there was an actual person in Brazil, an actual woman in Brazil that inspired you to write the song?
Yes, that she existed.
Oh,
Yes, that's a real person. Yes.
did she know that the song was about her?
Yes, I have to tell you that later on, people from newspapers and from communication started to look for who is Samarina, who is that lady who inspired that song, and then they found it, but she had a different name at that moment, Brasilina. Her name is Brasilina, and Samarina was more sounded better for the song. But that's true. You ask me something that's true. There was a person, there was someone that inspired that song, and she existed.
Mm. Do you still have a version? Do you have a recording of that Portuguese version?
Yes, there are many people in Brazil that recorded that song. I can tell you that more than 100 people recorded that song. It's a real hit.
Mhm.
And even the US, like Stevie Wonder recorded also, as I told Sergio Mendes, Herb Alpert also recorded.
Mhm.
Oh, recently there is Sheila. She's a singer, great singer. Oh, many people recorded the song. In
Mhm.
France also, in Japan, Lisa
Mhm.
Ono recorded in Japan. She's a great
Oh,
singer.
well, if you have a link to the Portuguese version, would you send it along to us, and then we'll put it in the description for this interview. I think that many of our listeners would want to hear the Portuguese version as well.
I can do it. I actually can send you the original recording, the one that made a hit in Brazil. There was a hit in Brazil, and that made Sergio Mendes be enchanted by that melody and that story, everything. I can send to you.
Oh, thank you so much, Antonio. Let's for you won a reward, an award for your songwriting, and you won a lot of awards. For that, for songwriting, what kind of awards did you win? And did you have to submit for yourself? Did somebody submit on your behalf, or do you know?
Can you repeat, please? I didn't understand well. I'm sorry.
You won a lot of awards, some of which were for songwriting. Do you know if somebody submitted on your behalf for the award? Did you submit, or you don't know? You just somebody notified you that you won the award.
I did submit.
Hmm.
I did submit myself.
Hmm.
The first guy who sang it, was Wilson Simonal. He was very famous, but I had worked with him before as a side player, and I had showed it to him. And Sergio also, I met him, but he wanted to record my song, the Sergio Mendes. I'm talking about that.
Hmm.
Uh, Even if I didn't show, he knew the original recording, and he got in love with the song, and then he recorded with his group Brazil 66.
Hmm. How much how much time do you spend in the US versus Brazil? Is most of your work done in Brazil, or how do you split your time?
I live in the US, but now I am in Brazil. I go back and forth all the time.
Hmm.
I'm in Rio de Janeiro now, but I'm flying this week to Florida, where I live.
Oh. Hmm.
Yes, and but I like to be here because not only because I have much work to do here. I have a music school also in Brazil.
Hmm.
I have a music school in Rio de Janeiro, and my daughters take care of the school. I'm just supervisor of the school at this moment. The school has almost 40 years, has 39 years at this moment, and I do lots of recording here, and
Hmm.
also when I am back in Florida, I also work there, and I work in the U.S. I do concerts sometimes. I never did in Chicago, but I do in several places. I travel with my group, and I do lots of record. The recording normally I do in Brazil the recording, but my albums are very well received in the U.S. in the jazz category. I, I have I have all my albums being very well received by radio stations. Oh, you have it on your hands. Yes, yes. That's it, the new one, Love Cole Porter.
So why did you choose Cole Porter of all these different American artists? What was special about him that drew you to play his songs for this album?
Cole Porter was a great composer. He was a genius. He was one who influenced many other composers, including composers of bossa nova in Brazil. They used to listen to much of his stuff, his compositions. I remember when I was a young kid, I used to listen to Cole Porter not only in my house, but in my place, but also in the parties where, and I think his music was a great inspiration to many Brazilian composers, including Antonio Carlos Jobim. And I one of I one of those who drank from that fountain. Understand what I'm saying? I got some influence from his music, and I used to play some of them before, but this time I really dedicated my heart, my soul, my piano, my harmonies, and arranging to his music. It was a great pleasure. I love Cole Porter. That's why I put that name as the title of the album, Love Cole Porter. Not only because I love the music by Cole Porter, but also because many of his songs in the album, if you can see, there are 4 songs that have the word love
Hmm.
on the title,
Hmm.
like Easy to Love. When you don't have love, you have the love is all around there. Love is love
Hmm.
is there in
Hmm.
his music. And
Hmm.
his melodies are great, his harmony is also, but I tried to do, not tried, I did not naturally bring to my style of arranging. You can see there are much of Brazilian influence on the songs, on the arrangements. You have bossa, you have a samba, you have rhythms from the northeast of Brazil. That came very naturally. I think if I wouldn't have something new to show in this album, I would not record.
Mhm,
Uh, so I did record because I think we did something different and something really new
mhm,
to his music, to show his music without infringing any of his melodies or soul, etc. I respect that very much. When we record someone else music, you have to be very, you know, much respect with for that music. That's
mhm,
it.
mhm. Yes, you have to keep the soul of the music
Of
in
course,
the work.
of course, yes.
Which ones of your songs that you wrote were inspired by Cole Porter?
Mm, my songs,
Any?
maybe just a few ones. Maybe are not known also in the US. Maybe you don't know, but I I can say that sometimes you cannot specify which one, but I know that I had much influence from his music, from his harmonies. That's why I was dedicating this album to him
Mhm,
because it made an important role on my formation, my musical formation, my musical growing. I cannot specify one music, but I can tell that his music influenced not only me but many Brazilian composers.
mhm, mhm. How is Brazilian jazz different from American jazz, would you say?
Basically, is the phrasing and the rhythm. The
Mm,
rhythm and the when I say phrasing, it's not just the melodies, but the harmony and everything. The phrase is like a soul of a song. The phrase, the way the way you construct the melodies, you construct your arrangements, phrasing something very, very, very special to me. So I think that's always present. It's very important that
mhm. Okay, so the rhythm is it faster a little bit more in Brazil, or is it just a different kind of
maybe
character, different kind of phrasing?
maybe
What?
the rhythm sophistication is something very important, and
Mm,
also the syncopation is in Brazilian jazz and Brazilian you have sometimes more syncopation
mhm.
that you don't have the notes exactly on the beat. Sometimes they go floating throughout the beats of the
Oh,
tempo. 1, 2, 1, 2. We go tan 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 tan. Tan. You never go like taka 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 taka, something
oh,
like that.
mm,
That's what I say. Is the syncopation is always present on Brazilian music and jazz because we improvise as jazz. We have a cycle of chords of measures, and you go back and forth through those that cycle, and then each one improvise like in jazz. Normally, it's the same principle, the same starting point as improvisation, but improvisation in Brazilian with the Brazilian styles or rhythms, Brazilian phrasing. That's what happened.
mhm. So does Brazil has samba? Is there any samba in Brazilian jazz?
Yes, always. And even in my album, you can see samba in 3 or 4 pieces here. Samba is the main Brazilian rhythm.
Right.
Of course, bossa nova is a sort of samba, is a different way of playing samba and other styles, but mainly samba
Mhm,
with more simple rhythm with more sophisticated chords. That's bossa nova, what I'm saying. But also there are other styles that we have syncopation everywhere in Brazil. You have like a baião, you have like a Ijexá that I recorded one song in Ijexá. There was also the frevo, quadrilha. All these styles are present in this Love Cole Porter album. And if you see the press release or so, I can tell you which ones, if you want, I can tell you which ones are in each style. But samba is the main style in Brazil.
Mhm.
It's always present.
What about your school? You started your own school about 40 years ago. What made you do that?
To create a school,
Yes.
when I was studying in France in the 70s, the early 70s, I spent some time with Nadia Boulanger, which she was a legend in the music teaching. She used to teach even to people even like Quincy Jones, Chick Corea, and Michel Legrand, and many other people. And I had the chance to study with her like 2 years. So when I came back to Brazil, I was very inspired by that lady, that great teacher, and I started to teach at home. I she did also in France, in Paris. And then I started teaching some of my colleagues for people interested in learning. When they knew that I was teaching, they came to see what I was going to teach. And then I start to love more, to respect and love more teaching, to do teaching.
Mm-hmm.
And then at some point, many people start to come to my house, or to my the place where I have my family there. And then myself and my wife, we started to think, oh, maybe we can have a room, uh, like in a professional building. We can have a piano there, and then other instruments. And then we start to have people going there, not in our house all the time. Every hour, different people comes to the living room. So we started to do that. And then since we don't have to teach 12 hours a day, I started to invite other musicians to teach other instruments, because people are asking, do you teach drums also? I told, oh, no, I don't teach drums. I teach the piano and the harmony. And then people looking for different instruments like drums, like bass, like trumpet, vocal. I started to call friends to teach at my place in the professional building. And the school came up like a school. We have different instruments, different teaching, different teachers also, and it's starting to growing, and now we have 3 schools in Rio de Janeiro, in three different places in Rio, and my daughters are also teachers, vocal teachers, and they take care more of the school. I am now these recent years I turned back to came back to recording my albums. That's why you have Love Coport and the ones before. And I started dedicating more again to my professional creative thing in the arranging, the releasing albums, etc. But the school is very well, it's doing very well. We had some problems like everyone had during the pandemic. It was a difficult moment, but the school is going to be 40 years next year, 2025. It's
Did
good. I
you
love the school. I love to teach.
did you have Zoom classes during the pandemic? Virtual
Yes,
classes? Mm-hmm.
yes. Everybody had to do that, and it was difficult to manage that moment because first we didn't know how long it was going to stay with that problem,
Mm-hmm.
and then we started to have to be creative also in that sense, and find a way to for the students don't go because the students also wanted to continue it. And then we did um, through the internet for some time.
It's really hard to teach music without both student and teacher being in the same room.
Can you repeat, please?
It's kind of hard teaching music without the teacher and the student being in the same room.
I I really agree because I think for learning music you have to have interaction, like the presence of someone on your side to show you, oh, put your hands on the piano and say, oh, that's not this way, you should do this way. Of course, you can do part of that through the like we are doing here now, but it's different if I am here with you and they're talking, then you sing. It's different. And we also in the school, our school, we approach very much into the group lessons. That's the most important thing because people interact with each other. Then you have a guitars and the drummer and the bass, everybody playing and singing. Physically, they are there. They are physically, they can touch the instrument, the other instruments. That's interaction. I think for not only Brazilian music, for any sort of music, even classical sometimes, you have to interact with the other
Mhm.
because you will learn a lot from the other, from each other.
Did you
So
go ahead?
that's our approach also at the school. I
Do
like.
you teach arrangement and producing too at your school, or is it just mostly instruments?
We also teach all those courses that have to be with the music market today. So
Mhm,
arranging is in that, like productions also in
mhm,
that. Also, we have like engineering, have like a production in general.
mhm.
Courses you have
Composition, composition too?
composition, of course. Yeah, we do have composition. I'm a composer. I have to teach what I know
Mhm,
also. I have books on composition also. I have books on arranging. I have books. Actually, I have 9 books published in music. Two
mhm,
specialized, two dedicated only to Brazilian music, and I have others dedicated to harmony on the piano, harmony in general. I have
mhm.
books on beginning for beginners also, or even children. We have lots of children in our school.
Oh,
We love to teach children because it's from children that things. Even my granddaughter, she's 2 years old. She's at the school at the moment. She's learning, and she loves to play. Now starts to love to play. That's incredible thing how it happens. You
how
have to
young? How young is she?
2 years old, two.
Oh, oh, wow.
Yes, so 2 years old,
Mhm,
and my daughter started her knowledge in music through my school. That's, that's something very we do something very in the family there. It's like it's a business that starts with the family. Everybody, my wife, my 2 girls, now the granddaughters also.
mhm,
I only have women in my family.
mhm. When you started teaching, it seemed as if you were teaching your fellow musicians. How did you start teaching uh, the young students?
Please repeat. When I
Oh, sure.
started,
Yeah, it seemed as if when you started your school, it was fellow musicians that wanted to learn from you. But eventually, you actually got the young students into the school. So how did you transition from teaching fellow musicians to teaching the youth?
I think everyone is so important. Is important. That's why I also have, as I told you, I have books for the since the very beginner to the intermediate to the advanced. I think all have the same importance. The same importance. Yeah. Uh, Anyone who wants to dedicate, that's something important. If you want to learn, you have to dedicate yourself to learn. And another thing that's very important, you have to have the passion for music and the passion for playing an instrument or singing. Passion is a key word, I think. Passion is something very important, because with passion, you dedicated some time to that thing. You don't have to do just, oh, for obligation that you have to be there practicing 2 hours a day. No, if you have to, first of all, have to have passion for that, and then everything starts from there. I think that's the most important.
So you are doing a lot. You're teaching, you're writing books, you're composing, you're publishing albums. What is your main passion now?
I am a multi activity
Mm,
activity
mm,
person. And I love music. That's because I love music and I love to do everything, because I know these days you have to do a little bit of each thing. So one thing completes the other. For example, when I started to be a independent musician, I had to release my own albums. So I started to learn lots of things, and I think I could get some independence because I was, first of all, I was with passion. I wanted to do different things, and my talent, I have talent. If not, I would never play different instruments or do all these things in music. And I have talent and passion, so that's why I do lots of things in music. That's I think is one thing completes each other.
mhm. So when you first you learned and then you try to create on your own. At what point did you feel that you were ready to create on your own?
Please repeat again. I'm sorry,
No,
the
that's
sound's
okay.
not so great.
Oh, that's okay. It's when first, of course, you were learning the instrument and playing and just learning learning the music and the scene. But at what point did you start feeling that you were ready to create on your own, compose, or create on your own that is separate from just learning and playing?
I can detect it very well, but I think it came naturally. It came naturally when I became a professional, when I started to be a composer, when I started to be. I think everything came at the right moment. It should have.
About how old were you when you started creating and composing?
Composing, I think, 21. Actually, when I was younger, I did some tries, very young, like in the 15 or 16 years old.
Mhm.
But I started to professionally composing, like doing songs, writing songs, or writing instrumental music. Really, I think I was at 21, 22, maybe. Yes. I
So
love to compose as well. It's something that I love to do. And arranging, as you mentioned, I love to do everything in music.
how long did it take you to become successful at the composition? And were you ever were you ever frustrated that what you were composing did not sell, or were you able to sell everything to make everything work?
If I understood what you said, I had 22 years old when that song came, Pretty
Mhm.
Woman. That's the one where you asking or no?
Well, the thing is that when you started writing and composing, I don't know if it took you how long to actually sell a song? How long did it take you to
Okay.
become successful? And
Came
were you ever frustrated that you were not successful yet?
it came fast. I cannot complain. It came fast. Right away. Like I started to show to singers and musicians, and they started to like, oh, I like that song. And I think my lyricist partner played a very important role in that at that moment, because he was very enthusiastic. Also, he was a guy who liked to, very social guy. He used to be friends of many other people, and I think that pushed me a little bit. I was a little bit shy person at that time. And I think that's something very important also. You have to show your music, you have to show, you have to sing your music, you have to play your music to other people. And then I started to agree. And that was a moment that everything was contributing to the type of music I was creating to make it succeed.
So what you're saying is that when you were creating music, when someone creates music, they need to share it, and not just like create it and then keep it at home with them. They should like share it out and then uh, see what people think and have other people's input and about how you're doing, right? To just get some feedback.
Yes, that's very important, feedback. But these days this process is a little bit different. The formula is a little bit different. They start to speak about AI to start to create music for people. I think I'm a little bit afraid of that. But the form of distributing the music is very different from the way from the moment I was starting. I think this democratic way that you can launch on the platforms, the digital music platforms. That's different, very different. But it's more democratic, I think. Anyone can place the music there and say, "Oh, I have my music on Spotify. I have my music on that Apple Music, and listen to my music." And then the guy can succeed. You don't have to submit the music to a recording company like a great multinational music company. You go through these ways that you can do it yourself.
So in other words, you're saying that now artists, when they write something, compose something, and then they could release it digitally, that levels the playing field a lot.
Yes, completely sure. I completely agree. Yes.
What was your first song or composition that you sold? Do you still remember?
So to
That was that became known, that became published, whatever it was, either a song or a
oh,
composition. Do you still remember the very first one, what
I
it
think
was?
the first one was one that I wrote for my trio when I was 17 years old or 18 years old. And then I named it Tema 3D. 3D was the name of the trio. Was
Mm-hmm.
an instrumental song composition. And I was around the 17, 18. But we recorded that album. I remember 1964.
Mm-hmm.
That was my first composition. Maybe the first that I have recorded. Yeah, that has been recorded.
Mm-hmm.
Was
And
instrumental.
is it still available? Would our listeners still be able
Yes,
to
I can.
listen?
Yes, I can tell you the link. I can send you the link also if you
Yes,
recall.
please. Yes, please
Yeah.
do that. And how has your work evolved from that first album to what you're doing now?
Oh, it's a long way.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm 77. Can you imagine how many
Yes.
how many
Six,
compositions? How many?
60, 60 years, right? Almost.
Who is 60?
Well, 17, you were 17 at that time. And then let me see if my name math is right. If you're 77 now, that was about
60 years
60 years
ago.
ago. Mm-hmm.
Yes, 60 years ago. So I have a long story.
Mm-hmm.
Long story. I cannot say how many compositions I wrote
Well, what
since.
about the overall, how you have evolved? Is there any like when you just look back and how your compositions have changed? What do you feel is the most different from what it is now versus what it was back then?
That is an interesting question because I can tell you that I see myself since the first composition I wrote when I was 17. And till these days, I can see myself in there. That's something that's very important. You have a style, you have to have yourself in the creation, not only the composition, but also in the playing and the arranging, everything. But I have, of course, since then I study composition, I study harmony, I study lots of things in counterpoint, and then there was a big way, a long way, and lots of implements, lots of things that I learned during my life, and I'm still learning. I'm still with my eyes and ears open to what comes. And then, of course, but I think the essence is the style. I think I if you listen to my first tune I wrote, then recorded, I'm gonna send you the link. You're gonna see that has something to do with my actual compositions.
Mhm. In other words, you're saying that your basic style has that is you was there when you were 17 and is still there now. But right now, you're because of all the knowledge that you gained, you're much more advanced now in your compositions.
Yeah, the compositions, of course, I can write a symphony if I want,
Mhm.
but the most important you be yourself when you write something, and then even if you do since a small tune that you can sing in la 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 or your symphony. The difference is the technique that you use for one or the other. But the essence, the real essence is the style that is your like a digital print,
Mhm.
like fingerprint, a
Yes.
fingerprint. I think
Mhm.
there is a fingerprint in my all my music. That's good. That's most important.
Mhm. Mhm. And what's next for you? What you have a lot of projects going, right? And what is most important that is coming up?
Now I'm very happy because my older daughter will be releasing an album with my songs.
Mm,
She's a singer. She's a nice singer, and she decided to record an album with my songs from the 70s, when
mhm,
1970. Her name is Carol Saboya, Saboya with an Y, Saboya.
okay.
And last night, she invited us to go to her house, and we had an audition of the album. She played the entire album for us, myself and my wife, and I was very impressed with her singing and with the way she recorded the songs, and I'm very happy. It's Carol Saboya, Outro Tom, that's the name of the album, and then songs by Antonio Adolfo. All those songs are from the 70s,
Mhm.
mainly 70s, yes, all from the 70s. And I'm very much into that. Can you imagine your daughter recording an album? Very professional, very well done.
Mhm. Well, she had a lot of training from you and your the other teachers at your school, I'm assuming, and well, she's teaching there as well. What about
Yes,
other genres? For instance, in the 70s, rock was becoming more and more popular. Did such genres as rock or even metal have any effect on your compositions?
I think at that time in the 70s, a little bit of the American folk, or you remember those James Taylors and Carole King,
Mhm.
also Cat Stevens, a little bit of that, and Elton John, a little bit of that, and of course the Brazilian regional songs from the interior of Brazil. And that time I started to write lyrics as well. That's something different for that moment. I never considered myself a lyricist, but at that time I started. By the way, all these songs she recorded, my daughter recorded, have my lyrics as well,
Mhm.
which is I was, because since the 90s, I never more wrote lyrics. And when you write lyrics, I think it's still more yourself, because you write the music, that's yourself, and the lyrics express literally the moment that you are living, and then your inspiration through the words. And that's something that's based on the music in the 70s that I created. And in Brazil, there was a big rock and roll influence at that moment, and pop music at that moment. Since the Beatles in UK, when they started, that made a revolution in music, and that touched very much Brazilian composers and musicians. There was many jazz musicians became pop musicians, and because in Brazil we cannot say, oh, I'm just a rock and roll musician. If you say that, you're gonna die of hungry. You cannot support your life being just one style. You have to do a little bit of everything. That's good. That's good, because you enter in different worlds. You go to different worlds of music, of different countries, different cultures. That's what I want to say. You have to go through different cultures.
When you were writing, and then you said that the interior of Brazil influenced you. Was that mostly a folk music that's the interior, or was it um, the jazz and the other elements, the bossa nova elements? What was in the interior of Brazil?
Interior is more like folk.
Hmm.
Yes.
So folk is more like more storytelling. Is that true?
Is more what?
Like storytelling, more of a more storytelling in folk music?
Yes,
Mm.
that's right. That's right.
Well, Antonia, Adolfo, we really enjoyed learning from you, from all your work that you have done in so many years, and we thank you for joining us on WZRD Chicago 88.3 FM today. Make sure you send us those links so that we could provide them for our listeners. That first song you wrote, the first album, and also if our listeners want to learn more about you, how could they learn more about you and your work?
Thank you so much. I didn't have an idea what was going to be this talk, but I enjoyed very much talking with you and talk about my compositions, my recordings, my experience, my long story, as I told you before. It's my pleasure to be here speaking with you and to your audience. And thank you so much.
And if we were to learn more, if our listeners want to learn more about you and your work, where should they go?
Great, great. Okay, I can check my website as well. Is
Okay,
aanmusic.com.
okay.
Just that like Antonio, Adolfo, M,
Hmm.
and then I have music
Okay,
together.
okay. Thank you so much, Antonia Adolfo. Uh, and your newest album right now is Love Co-Porter. Thank you again for joining us at WZRD Chicago 88.3 FM.